you managed to manipulate the backgrounds in some of these pieces in a way that really brings out and makes them three-dimensional, and makes them pop out. And so how did you, in this particular case, how did you come
that was a great
that?
challenge, because that was a great example of the first attempt to photograph that was, I thought, a great failure, because it was just really flat, it was really boring. And the first time I shot it, I realized it wasn't exactly what I had in mind. And so I really took the time after the fact to just sort of go home and think about it, and think about what I was looking at and how to show off the features that I liked about it. So when I had a second chance, when you guys gave me a second chance to come back and shoot it here at the Pickford Center, I had imagined featuring the very reflective pieces of the glass and the metal by simply putting a bent piece of steel behind it and using a single strobe. The steel in the background made this great crazy white light, and the glass just sort of really became vivid and picked up all the surrounding colors of it. So you get blues and reds that are picking up from things that are not in frame, but it still really worked for the piece.
Many of the images are very much, they have a lot of tension in them. They show movement or something about to move. It's like kinetic energy that's captured in the object itself.
I do have a framing with composition, and it's kind of a point with me. I mean, my hope is that the audience looks at something and there does seem to be a lot of motion in it. The challenge of looking at something that has an interesting piece to it but needs to still be an interesting photograph, it still has to, the background, the piece itself has to fill an entire frame. The audience is going to look at an entire photograph. So all of the elements that are in there have to sort of work. So hopefully in the composition and the lines that follow with the borders give it a sense of moving forward, or you could imagine that you could walk up to it and start turning the dials.
Well, in some of the pieces in the collection, in this particular show, are from actually documentary photographs that you've taken of our collection, and they've ended up, because of the framing, I think, to be kind of special. I mean, the one of the Klieg brothers, Light, and the Film Cement seem to be of that group. At what point does it become, for you, sort of an art shot, or art?
My hope is that they all are. You know, I kind of approach everything like that. I think when you and I worked together on archiving the Bartel collection, I was very conscious of the fact that in 100 years from now, if somebody was going to look at this, they need to be able to see it clearly. They don't care if I'm an artist. They want to be able to look at this and say, that's what it looked like. Those are the serial numbers, you know, and I was very conscious of that. But some of the pieces are so interesting that if you just look at them, the design really dictates that it has potential to be something that you could actually hang on your wall.
They really seem very human connected. In other words, they show either the fact that people use them, you know.
It's funny because when I started, that was off the table. All I wanted to do was take pretty pictures of pretty things. But when I began to show an editor, or if you begin to show a projectionist and you can see the human connection, I became more conscious of that. The history of people that this thing represents, you know, showing fingerprints or showing wear marks, or showing, if you open up the inside of a camera and you can see where it's not the outside where it's supposed to be nice and shiny, but the inside where it's machined, and you can see someone wasn't paying that much attention to the inner workings of the machine, and the metal is ground in a certain way. You can see the human touch on that, and I think that, without me even stating that, if people look at it, I think they connect that.
Well, thank you. I think we really had a nice in-depth look at some of these pieces, and we can continue to explore them.